The day my entire existence got rerouted was a Tuesday. I remember because I was elbow deep in a busted coolant pump on a mining rig in the outer belt, and my government-issued link buzzed with a notification I'd never expected. Subject: Mandatory Genetic Pairing Notification. Citizen Elena Vance, you have been identified as a 100% genetic match to citizen Marcus Blackwood. You are required to report to the Federal Pairing Center within 30 days for formal registration. Failure to comply will result in legal penalties. Asterisk, asterisk. I stared at that screen for a solid minute, my hands still greasy, my back screaming from 20 years of manual labor, a 100% match. T.O. Marcus Blackwood. The word sat in my brain like a foreign object I couldn't process. Let me give you the short version of who I am: Class D physical, Class C psionic. I've spent 2 decades on mining colonies, the kind of place where you breathe recycled air and eat protein paste and never see a real sunrise. I've never been to the core planets. I've never even seen a real tree that wasn't in hologram. Marcus Blackwood, on the other hand, is the youngest fleet commander in history, Class S physical, Class SSS psionic. He graduated military academy with perfect scores, the kind of person who makes everyone else feel like they're still learning to tie their shoes. His face is on recruitment posters, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, eyes that look like they've never been surprised by anything, and he's cold. The kind of cold that makes people call him the ice commander behind his back. The government's official position: we were genetically destined for each other. I sat down on a crate. My knees weren't working right. First thought: system error. Some server melted and spat out garbage. Second thought: I need to disappear. The outer belt wasn't far enough. Maybe one of the unregulated colonies where they don't check credentials. Third thought didn't happen because a government transport had already landed outside the main airlock. 2 officers in crisp gray uniforms walked in with identical professional smiles and a datapad showing Marcus Blackwood's signature already in place. Ms. Vance, Commander Blackwood completed his confirmation 3 hours ago. We're here to transport you to the core planets. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. A Class D citizen has 0 ground to stand on against the Federal Pairing Act. Matches above 95% are mandatory, and we were at 100%. There had been maybe 4 documented cases in history. I stood up, wiped my hands, picked up my single compressed storage case, 20 years of life in a box the size of a loaf of bread, and walked out. The transport was fine, luxurious, even compared to the cramped shuttles I was used to. I sat in the passenger cabin and made the mistake of checking my link. The headline read, Commander Blackwood's 100% match identified, outer belt miner with Class D profile. The comments were a war zone. Asterisk Class D? What a waste. She's going to ruin him. She didn't choose it. Why blame her? Mining orphan. Both parents dead. So what's she even doing here? Asterisk. I turned off the link and pressed my forehead against the window. The apartment they assigned us was overwhelming. The living room alone was bigger than my entire previous dwelling. Temperature-controlled walls, active cushion flooring, air that smelled like nothing, which was a luxury because nothing meant no recycled oxygen tang, no grease, no dust. I set my storage case on the floor, the only thing in that entire space that looked like it belonged to a real person, and stood in the middle of the room, completely lost. I didn't sit on the couch. It looked expensive. The rug looked even more expensive. Everything screamed, you don't belong here. I was still standing there, staring at the coffee table like it might attack me, when the front door opened. His footsteps were heavy, but quiet against the floor. I turned. Marcus Blackwood was taller than his photos. He filled the doorway, and his presence seemed to suck the air out of the room. He wore the fleet's black formal uniform, rank insignia catching a light. His face was exactly as I remembered. Sharp cheekbones, that jaw, those eyes. But his eyes were worse, brown, deep, and utterly empty, like I was an item on a checklist he was processing. Ms. Vance, he said. His voice was low and smooth, but distant, like a briefing. Commander Blackwood, I replied, straightening up. I'm Elena Vance. He didn't move. His gaze swept over me once quickly. Then he turned and walked toward the hallway. Your room is the end of the hall, he said without looking back. Mine is the other end. Don't go into my office. Then he disappeared. The door at the far end clicked shut, and the apartment fell silent. I stood there for a long moment. Then I exhaled and picked up my storage case. I'd already decided. The match meant nothing emotionally. Marcus signed because the law gave him no choice. And neither did I. So I made my rules. Don't push. Don't hope. Don't assume. Be functional. Be useful. Be invisible. That was the only way to survive this. I learned to schedule within a week. He woke at 5:30, left at 6 o'clock, returned at 19:00. I had dinner ready when he got back. Basic protein, vegetables, nothing fancy. The temperature had to be exact. Too hot, he'd wait. Too cold, he'd glance at the plate and not say anything, but I'd notice. We ate in near silence. He sat across from me, methodically eating his portion, never looking up. Occasionally, he'd ask something like, "Did you access the domestic system today?" And I'd say, "Yes, I restocked supplies," and then nothing. I found a rhythm. Wake up, make myself scarce, do whatever needed doing, serve dinner, disappear. I studied the core planet's domestic protocols, memorized the array of pheromone regulators, learned exactly how quiet I had to be. I thought that was working. I thought he appreciated the space. I didn't know what was happening beneath the surface. On day 37, I found out. I'd gone to the local supply center. On my way back, someone called my name from the street. Elena Vance. I turned. The woman was stunning, tall, with silver gray hair that fell past her waist, wearing the Corps Military Academy's chief cadet uniform. Her face was the kind of perfect that makes you look twice and then feel bad about yourself. Class of physical, class A psionic. My link flashed her profile automatically. I'm Elena. I said, uncertain. Can I help you? Lily Chen. She said it like that alone was supposed to mean something. 3rd Fleet Staff. Commander Blackwood's attached strategist. I knew her. I'd seen her name in the comment sections for years. People had assumed Lily would be the one matched with Marcus. She was the obvious choice. High stats, same military background, same elite circles. Everyone had been waiting for the algorithm to put them together. And then I'd shown up. Ms. Chun, I said, is there something? Lily stepped closer. She was taller than me, even though I'd never thought of myself as short. She looked down at me with clinical interest, like I was a slide under a microscope. Just wanted to see for myself, she said, the woman who made Commander Blackwood sign that confirmation. Her smile was perfect. Her tone was worse. Class D physical, Class C psionic, outer belt upbringing, and formal education beyond basic modules. She recited my file like reading from a screen. Do you have any idea how much augmentation he's needed? I felt my hand tighten around the supply bag. 3 times the standard dosage, Lily continued. Regulators rated for Class S require 0.3 milliliters per day. He's been using 0.9 for the past 37 days. His endocrine system is under extreme stress. At this rate, his pheromone regulation will start degrading. My throat went dry. I hadn't known. He'd never told me. Of course, Lily added, her smile still intact. You wouldn't notice. A Class D can't register hormonal fluctuations at that level. It's like a beetle trying to sense the tide. She turned and walked away, her silver hair swinging. I stood there for a long time, gripping my supply bag until my knuckles ached. 37 days, 3 times the standard dose, and I had no idea. What else hadn't I noticed? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my room, staring at the ceiling, replaying Lily's words. Asterisk 3 times the standard dose. His endocrine system is under extreme stress. Asterisk. I'd been so careful. I'd kept out of his way, made myself small, tried not to be a burden. I thought I was doing everything right. Instead, I've been doing everything wrong. I got up around 1 a.m., walked out into the living room, found it dark, the city lights casting long shadows. I stood there for a moment, feeling the silence press in. Then I heard a sound, a hitch in the apartment's ambient noise. I looked toward the hallway. Marcus was standing in the entryway, still in his fleet uniform. His collar was undone, and I could see the edge of 2 regulator patches on his wrist, both darkened and useless. He leaned against the wall with his head back, eyes closed, breathing hard. His jaw was clenched so tightly I could see tendons stand out in his neck. I moved before I thought. Commander? His eyes snapped open, and the dim light. They looked different, not brown anymore, but a pale gold, like someone had lit a fire behind the pupil. His breathing was ragged, and he was radiating heat. I could feel it from 3 feet away. Elena. His voice was hoarse. Stay back. I didn't stay back. I walked closer. No, I could smell it now, his pheromones, not the carefully neutralized version from the daytime. This was raw, undiluted, Class S concentration, like a predator waking up and revealing its teeth. My knees almost buckled. Not from fear, from biology.my genes, and his raw 100% match.my body had no defense against his pheromone signature. Every cell in my system recognized him as the optimal mate. The smell of him made my heart race, made my skin prickle, made my temperature spike like I was running a fever. Please, he said. The regulator failed. I've already augmented. Give it 10 minutes. I looked at his wrist. The 2 regulator patches were both a deep, purplish red, completely saturated. Class S metabolism burned through regulators 3 times faster than normal. He'd been doping himself to keep me safe, and now his system was fighting back. I should have backed away. I should have gone to my room, shut the door, let him handle it. I didn't. I took another step forward. His eyes widened. His hand came up like he was about to push me back, but he didn't touch me. His fingers hovered a few inches from my arm, shaking slightly. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. I knew what I was doing. I was walking into a fire, but I was also seeing something I hadn't seen before. Marcus Blackwood was in pain. Physical, real pain. And I was the source of it. Lily Chen came to see me today. I said quietly. She told me about the augmentation, the triple dose. She told me your system is degrading. His expression shifted. The pain was still there, but now there was something else behind it. Anger? No. Something colder. Lily told you? She did. Marcus made a sound, a short, harsh exhalation that might have been a laugh. Of course she did. She's been waiting for exactly this. Why didn't you tell me? The question hung there. He looked at me for a long moment, his golden eyes searching my face for something. Then his composure cracked just a little. Because I saw you, he said. The first night, you stood in the middle of this apartment, holding that single storage case, and you wouldn't even sit on the couch. You were so careful to not touch anything, like you thought you'd break something just by being here. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I knew if I told you about the augmentation, he continued, you'd feel guilty. You'd think it was your fault, you'd want to leave, and you'd try to do it in a way that didn't inconvenience me. And his voice broke, just a little. I knew I couldn't let you. His hand finally touched me, just a touch, his fingers brushing my arm. The moment he touched me, his pheromone concentration spiked. A wave of heat washed over my entire body. My knees buckled for real, and I grabbed his arm to steady myself. His skin was burning. Elena, he said, his voice dropping. I'm trying to control this. Then stop. The words came out before I could stop them. I didn't even know what they meant, but I felt his fingers tighten on my arm, and I saw the golden light in his eyes surge. I can't, he said. If I stop, I'm going to. Then don't. Something shifted in his face. The control he'd been holding so tightly finally broke. Marcus pulled me into the living room, his hands on my shoulders, his mouth finding mine. IT wasn't gentle. IT wasn't careful. It was the kiss of a man who'd been holding himself back for 37 days and had finally reached his limit. The back of my legs hit the couch, and then I was on it with him above me, his weight pressing me into the cushions, his hands tangling in my hair. I could taste the pheromones on his skin. He was everywhere, in my lungs, in my blood, in every nerve ending I had. His mouth moved from my lips to my jaw. His teeth scraped the sensitive skin at my throat. "I've been wanting this," he breathed, so quiet I almost missed it, since the moment you walked in that door. I threaded my fingers into his hair and held on. The next morning, I woke with sunlight coming through the window and Marcus's arm around my waist. He was still asleep, his face softer than I'd ever seen it. One of his hands rested on my hip like it belonged there. I lay still, watching him sleep. He was beautiful in a way that made me feel almost guilty, like I'd stolen something that wasn't mine. Then my link pinged and I saw the notification that changed everything. Core Planet's Fleet Academy, Adult Education Center. Congratulations, Elena Vance. Your application to the Applied Psionic Foundation's course has been conditionally approved. Classes begin 12 August. Location, Fleet Academy East Building, 7th floor. I'd applied 3 weeks ago, been denied twice, and written a 3,000-word appeal on the third try. They'd finally accepted me. I sat up too quickly and immediately regretted it. My lower back was aching in a way I didn't want to examine. I flopped back onto the pillow. Marcus's arm tightened around my waist. His voice was thick with sleep. "Where do you think you're going?" "My Psionic Foundation's course got approved," I said. He was suddenly very awake. His eyes opened, and I watched him process the words. "You applied for a psionic course?" "3 times, I said. "Elena, your official classification is Class C." "I know. The minimum requirement is Class B." "I also know that." Marcus propped himself up on one elbow and looked at me. "What did you put in the appeal?" I smiled at his expression. I wrote 3,000 words about how the classification system is class-biased, and I shouldn't be penalized for my physical rating when psionic potential is a separate metric. His mouth twitched. That was almost a smile. "You wrote 3,000 words on that?" "And I have a good vocabulary." Marcus shook his head slowly. "I need to see this appeal." I deleted it. I didn't think you'd want to read my manifesto on systemic genetic discrimination. Sounds more interesting than half the reports I've been reading this month. I laughed. It was the first real laugh I'd had since arriving. But beneath the laughter, something else was turning in my mind. Lily's words, the triple dose, Marcus's confession that he'd been hiding it to protect me. And now this course approval, a chance to develop something I'd never been allowed to develop. I looked at Marcus. "You knew about the suppression, didn't you? You knew your pheromones were dampening my psionic development." His expression flickered. "Yes." "And you didn't tell me." "Because I didn't want you to leave." The honesty hit me like a physical blow. He wasn't denying it. He was admitting he'd chosen his own need to keep me close over my potential. "That's not fair," I said quietly. "I know." His voice was flat. "But I'm not sorry. I'd do it again." I stared at him. That was the moment I realized this man was not cold. He was desperate, and desperation made him dangerous. "I'm still going to the course," I said. "I wouldn't stop you." "Good." I got out of bed, my body aching, my mind racing. I had a lot to figure out, and I had a feeling Lily Chin wasn't done with me yet. The first day of the Psionic Foundation's course, I showed up early, not because I was eager, I was terrified. But I'd learned a long time ago that showing up early gave me time to find a seat in the back, to observe, to figure out where the exits were. The Fleet Academy's East building was intimidating. Everything was polished metal and clean lines, and everyone I passed wore the standard uniform with their physical and psionic class insignia displayed on their chests. I was in civilian clothes, the plain ones I'd bought at the supply center, and I felt like a stray cat that had wandered into a showroom. The classroom was a large circle of chairs around a demonstration platform. I picked a seat in the back row, as far from the instructor as possible. The other students filtered in, 20 of them, all younger than me, all wearing those uniforms, all radiating the kind of confidence that came from never having been told they didn't belong. The instructor was a retired fleet officer, a wiry man with a sharp voice and impatient eyes. He launched into a lecture on the 3 stages of psionic development: sensing, focusing, and projecting. Then he demonstrated by generating a stable psionic field from his palm, a soft blue glow that hovered above his skin like a captive star. "Now it's your turn," he said. "Focus on your core. Push your awareness down through your body and out through your hands. Don't think about it. Just let it happen." I closed my eyes. I searched for the warmth everyone described, that feeling of energy waiting to be channeled. I found nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. Around me, I could hear soft gasps and murmurs as other students produced their own fields, small glows of various colors, some bright, some dim. One student in the front row produced a perfect white ball that hovered a foot above his palm. I opened my eyes and looked at my empty hands. "Let's try one more time," the instructor said. "We have all day." I closed my eyes and tried again. This time, I searched deeper. I pushed past the absence of energy and looked for something quieter, something buried. I thought about Marcus's pheromones, the way they'd flooded my system that night in the living room. I thought about the way my body had responded, the way every cell had recognized him. And I felt it. A small, fragile warmth, like a match flame in a hurricane. I coaxed it up through my chest, down my arm, through my hand. I opened my eyes. A tiny, barely visible gray-white glow sat on the tip of my index finger. IT was about the size of a pea, and it wavered like it was about to give up at any second. Compared to the bright glows of the other students, mine was pathetic. Somebody in the front row laughed. Class D really shows, doesn't it? Looks like it's on life support. I felt my cheeks redden. My focus slipped, and the pea-sized glow vanished. Then someone else spoke. I think it's interesting, actually. A voice from the back of the room. I turned. A young man with messy brown hair and kind green eyes was standing up from his chair. He walked toward me, his hands in his pockets. I recognized him from the earlier demonstration. He produced a bright silver glow that was probably the largest in the room. I'm Rylan, he said, stopping a few feet away. Course assistant. Do you mind? He held out his hand. I took it, uncertain. The moment our palms touched, I felt something shift. A warmth spread from his hand into mine, and the gray-white glow on my fingertips reappeared. Only now it was bigger, stronger. The color was faintly silver, like his had been. Rylan released my hand and stepped back. See, it's not gone, it's just been suppressed for a long time at a Class C psionic rating in a Class D body. You were probably never given the chance to develop it. Your body's priority was keeping you alive, not unlocking your potential. The instructor frowned. That's not standard theory, Rylan. Maybe not, Rylan said, but I stand by it. He looked at me again. Green eyes, kind. If you want to develop this, I can help. After class, if you have time. I nodded, still shaken. Okay. After class, Rylan and I met in the hallway. He was holding a small silver disc, about the size of my palm, with a simple activation switch on the top. External psionic amplifier, he said, handing it to me. For Class C users. I don't use it anymore. Try it. I took the disc. The moment my fingers touched it, the gray-white glow appeared on my fingertips again. Not the pea-sized version. This time, it was about the size of a tennis ball. It was still wispy, still fragile, but it was there. Better, Rylan said. You're being held back by something else. You have high psionic potential, probably Class A, but it's being dampened. What's dampening it? Rylan hesitated. His green eyes flickered, and I saw something pass across his face. Calculation? Concern? I couldn't tell. Your physical body is a Class D, he said, and you're spending a lot of time in close proximity to someone with a very strong pheromone signature. That kind of exposure suppresses psionic development in lower class bodies. It's not malicious. It's just how biology works. I stared at him. His pheromones are dampening my psionic development. You didn't know? No, I said. I didn't. There was a long pause. Then Rylan said, maybe try using that amplifier for a few hours a day. It'll help create a separate channel for your psionic energy. The suppression won't stop completely, but it'll be less severe. I tucked the amplifier into my pocket. Thank you, Rylan. Of course, he said. He didn't say anything else, but I noticed he didn't quite meet my eyes when he walked away. I got back to the apartment that evening and found Marcus already there. He was in the living room, his uniform off, his sleeves rolled up. The regulator patches on his wrist were both freshly applied. I walked in and placed the amplifier on the coffee table. He looked at it. Where did you get that? His tone was neutral, but I could read him better now. He was tense. The course assistant, I said. His name is Rylan. Marcus picked up the amplifier. He turned it over in his hand. External amplifier. For Class C users. He said it would help with the pheromone suppression. Marcus's jaw tightened. Did he touch you? Just my hand. He's right, Marcus said. My pheromones are suppressing your psionic development. I knew it was happening. I just didn't want to be the one to tell you. Why didn't you say something? Marcus set the amplifier down on the table. Because I don't want you to stop spending time near me. My chest constricted. Marcus. I know I'm making it harder for you. His voice was low. I know you could develop your psionic abilities faster if you stayed away. But I'm not willing to make that trade. Not yet. And Rylan. Marcus's eyes flashed. What about him? He said I have Class A potential. That all this time, I've just been suppressed by your... I know what he said. Marcus's voice was flat, controlled. Is he right? I don't know. Marcus looked at me. He might be, but I also know he's the son of a rival family, Rylan Chun. My stomach dropped. Rylan Chun. The youngest son of the Chin family, Lily's brother. I sat down hard on the couch. You knew? That's why you didn't want him near me. I didn't want to tell you, because I didn't want you to think I was manipulating you. Marcus sat down next to me. Lily wants them match annulled. She's been trying to find a way for weeks. If she can prove that I'm damaging your psionic development, she can petition for... He stopped himself. Petition for what? I asked. Marcus looked at me and the dim light. His eyes were dark again. The match is legally binding, he said. But if there's evidence of harm, actual documented harm to one party, it can be challenged. Lily wants me out, and she's been building a case. I realized then that I was sitting on a fault line, and I hadn't even known the ground was moving. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the amplifier sitting on my nightstand. It glowed faintly in the dark. I thought about Rylan's kindness. The way he'd helped me, the way he'd spoken to me like I was a person, not a project. But he was Lily's brother, and Lily wanted to destroy my match with Marcus. Could his help be genuine? Or was it part of a larger plan? I picked up the amplifier and turned it over in my hands. The metal was cool against my skin. I pressed the activation switch. A soft hum vibrated through my palm. I felt the familiar warmth spread up my arm, and the gray-white glow appeared on my fingertips. But this time, something was different. The glow was a little brighter, a little more silver. I focused harder. I pushed past the warmth, past the hum, and tried to feel the energy inside me, not just in my hand, but everywhere. In my chest, in my head. And I felt it. A deep, steady pulse, like a second heartbeat. It was faint, buried under layers of fatigue and suppression, but it was there. It was mine. I sat up in bed, my heart racing, then I pushed again, and the glow on my fingertips grew bigger, tennis ball, then softball. Then, I gasped. It was the size of my entire hand, and the color had shifted from gray-white to a pale, shimmering gold. Gold. Not silver. Not gray. Gold. I stared at it. My breath caught in my throat. That color, it was the same as the light I'd seen in Marcus's eyes that night in the living room. The same deep, burning gold. I let the glow fade and sat in the darkness, my mind racing. MY psionic energy wasn't just being suppressed, IT was being influenced by Marcus. By whatever connection the 100% match had created between us. Rylan had told me the amplifier would help create a separate channel, but what if the channel wasn't separate at all? What if it was just a different way of accessing the same energy, the energy that was already linked to Marcus? I had to know more. The next day at class, I approached Rylan after the session ended. Rylan, I said, can I ask you something? He turned, his green eyes curious. Of course. You said my psionic potential is Class A, but last night, when I used the amplifier, my glow turned gold. Not silver, gold. Rylan's expression flickered. For just a moment, I saw something surprise, unease, then it was gone, replaced by a smooth, professional smile. Gold is unusual, he said, but not impossible. It usually indicates a very strong influence from an external source, someone with a high pheromone concentration, perhaps. Marcus, I said. Rylan nodded slowly. Commander Blackwood's pheromones are exceptionally potent. It's possible they're permanently altering your energy signature. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean you'll never develop a purely independent channel. What does that mean for me? Rylan looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, it means your psionic development will always be tied to his presence. If he's near, you'll be stronger. If he's far, you'll be weaker. And if he's ever gone, you might lose it entirely. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I was dependent on him, not just in the match, but biologically, physically. My psionic energy was shaped by his pheromones. Can that be changed? I asked. There are treatments, Rylan said slowly, but they're invasive, and they require, he paused, separation. Complete separation for an extended period. It's not something most people choose. I felt the weight of that. Separation. From Marcus. From the only person in this entire world who had shown me any warmth. I left class that day with more questions than answers. When I got home, Marcus was waiting for me in the living room. He looked up from his data pad, his eyes scanning my face. What's wrong? I sat down across from him. Rylan told me something today. He said my psionic energy is permanently tied to yours. That if you're gone, I might lose it entirely. Marcus's expression didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten on the data pad. He's right, he said quietly. You knew that too? Yes. And you didn't tell me? Marcus set the data pad down. I was going to, but I wanted to find a solution first. There are ways to strengthen your own core, to make it more independent. It takes time, but it's possible. How much time? Months, maybe years. I stared at him, and in the meantime, I'm just attached to you? Marcus's eyes met mine. Is that so terrible? It's not about terrible, I said, my voice rising. It's about choice that I didn't choose this, that I didn't choose any of this. The match, the augmentation, the suppression, none of it was my choice. And now you're telling me my psionic energy is basically a hostage to your pheromones. Marcus stood up. He walked to the window, his back to me. When he spoke, his voice was low. I know you didn't choose this, Elena, and I know I've been keeping things from you, but you have to understand, I've been trying to protect you. Protect me from what? He turned. His eyes were gold again. That deep, burning gold I was starting to recognize. From the truth, he said. The 100% match wasn't random. It was engineered. I felt the floor drop out from under me. Engineered. Marcus walked back toward me. He sat down on the coffee table in front of me, close enough that I could see the faint tremor in his hands. Years ago, before you were born, the government started a program. They wanted to create ideal genetic pairs, people who would produce the strongest possible offspring. They manipulated genes, altered pheromone profiles, designed matches that would maximize physical and psionic potential. My voice came out as a whisper. And we were designed for each other? Marcus nodded. You and I were one of the test subjects. They paired our genetic profiles before we were even born. The 100% match wasn't a coincidence. It was a result. I felt sick. So everything, the match, the pheromones, the energy, it's all manufactured? Not entirely, Marcus said quickly. The match is real. The connection is real. But the system that created it wasn't random. They wanted to see if they could force a perfect pairing. I stood up, needing to move, needing to breathe. Why are you telling me this now? Because Rylan knows. He's been investigating the program for years, and he's found evidence. Evidence that the match is fabricated. If he makes that public, everything falls apart. Our marriage, my career, your security, all of it. I stopped pacing. So, Rylan isn't just trying to help me. He's trying to expose the whole system. Marcus's jaw tightened. He's trying to use you to get to me. He knows you're the weakest link. If he can prove the match is manufactured, he can destroy everything. I stared at him. And you didn't think to warn me before I walked into his class? I didn't know he was the course assistant until yesterday, Marcus said. I found out after your first session. I was going to tell you tonight. Were you? I asked. Or were you going to keep it a secret until it was too late? Marcus flinched. Elena! I need to think. I walked out of the living room, my mind reeling. I went to my room, the one at the end of the hall, the one he'd assigned me on the first night, and closed the door. I leaned against it, my heart pounding. Rylan was using me. Marcus was hiding things from me. Lily wanted to destroy me, and I was trapped in the middle of a conspiracy I didn't even understand. But I wasn't going to be anyone's pawn. Not anymore. I pulled out the amplifier and stared at it. Rylan had given it to me that IT was supposed to help me develop my psionic energy. But if Rylan was an investigator, then the amplifier might be more than a tool. It might be a tracking device, a listening device, a way to monitor everything I did. I turned it over in my hands. There had to be a way to check. I took it to the apartment's domestic control panel, a small terminal in the hallway, and ran a basic diagnostic scan. The results came back in seconds. The amplifier was clean. No tracking, no restanding, no monitoring. Just a simple psionic booster. But attached to the diagnostic log, I found something else. A file. A data packet that had been transferred from the amplifier to an external server the moment I'd activated it. The file was labeled, Subject Analysis, Vance Elena. Psionic signature tracking. Phase 1. Asterisk, asterisk. Rylan had been collecting data on me from the moment I touched that amplifier. I stood there, my blood running cold. He wasn't just helping me, he was documenting everything. My progress, my energy signature, the interaction with Marcus's pheromones. He was building a case. And I had just handed him the most critical evidence he could want. I walked back into the living room with the amplifier in my hand. Marcus was still there, standing by the window. Marcus, I said, I need to tell you something. He turned. Rylan's amplifier isn't just for training, it's a data collection device. He's been recording my psionic signature and sending it to an external server. Marcus's eyes went dark. He crossed the room in 3 strides and took the amplifier from my hand. He examined it, his jaw tight. He's building a case, Marcus said. He's documenting the pheromone suppression. If he gets enough data, he can file a formal petition to annul the match on grounds of harm. Can he do that? Marcus looked at me. He can try, and if we don't stop him, he might succeed. I felt the weight of that. My marriage, my security, my entire future, all of it depended on proving that the match wasn't harming me. And Rylan had been collecting evidence that it was. We need to turn this around, I said. We need to show that the match isn't harmful, that it's actually beneficial. Marcus shook his head. That would require proving that your psionic energy is developing faster because of the match, not despite it. And to do that, we need to show that your energy is stabilizing, not degrading. And is it? Marcus looked at me. I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be anyone's pawn anymore. Not Rylan's, not Lily's, and not even Marcus's, however well-intentioned his secrecy might be. I woke up before Marcus for the first time. He was still asleep, his arm loosely draped over my waist. I slipped out from under it, pulled on my clothes, and went to the kitchen that I needed coffee. I needed to think. I downloaded the diagnostic log from the amplifier onto my personal link before I went to bed. Now I sat at the kitchen table and read through it carefully. Subject Analysis, Vance Selena. Phase 1, Baseline Psionic Signature Tracking. Start date, 12 August. Duration, 14 days. The data was detailed that IT tracked my psionic activity every time I'd used the amplifier. The duration, the intensity, even the color shifts. It cross-referenced those readings with Marcus's known pheromone cycles, mapping how my energy responded to his presence. Rylan had been building a profile of me as an object of study, not a person. But there was something else in the file. A note at the bottom, hidden in the metadata. Sister's Directive. Observe and document. Do not engage until Phase 2. Advise before filing. Asterisk, asterisk. Sister's Directive. That was Lily. She was pulling the strings. Rylan was just the hands. I closed the file and sat back in my chair. Lily Chen wanted me out of the picture. She wanted the match annulled so she could take Marcus's position. And her brother was helping her, one data point at a time. But what if I gave them data that didn't fit their narrative? Marcus came into the kitchen at 5:45, already in his uniform. He stopped when he saw me at the table. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I held up my link. I found something in Rylan's amplifier file. He's been collecting data for Lily. She's the one running this operation. Marcus's expression hardened. He walked to the counter and poured himself coffee, his movements controlled and deliberate. I know, he said quietly. Lily's been positioning herself for years. She sees me as a stepping stone. The match with you is supposed to be her opening, not an obstacle. What do you mean? Marcus turned, his coffee cup in his hands. Lily was the one who flagged the 100% match to the pairing center. She's the one who pushed for the confirmation to go through. She thought it would be a scandal, a Class D match to a Class S commander. She thought it would destroy my career. I stared at him. She wanted the match to happen? Exactly. She expected it to fail. She expected you to be weak, to break, to make me look bad. That was her plan. Let the match implode, then step in and take my position while I was being reassigned. My stomach turned, but I didn't break. No, Marcus said. You didn't. And now she's scrambling. The match isn't failing. It's working. And that's worse for her than anything else. I felt a strange, sharp satisfaction at that. Lily wanted to use me as a weapon against Marcus, and I'd failed at being the weapon she wanted. I'd accidentally won. But that meant she'd keep coming. I went to class that day with a new purpose. I was going to give Rylan the data he wanted, but I was going to shape it. When he approached me after the session, I smiled and handed him the amplifier. Thanks for this, I said. It's been incredibly helpful. I've been using it every day. Rylan's green eyes flickered. Good. I'm glad. How's the progress? Better than expected, I said truthfully. I think I'm getting stronger. He nodded, his expression careful. Let me take a look at the readings. I'll give you some feedback. I handed him the amplifier and watched his face as he reviewed the data. I'd spent the night carefully recalibrating the device's output. Not enough to raise suspicion, just enough to show steady, modest improvement. The gold color was still there, but I'd muted it, making it look like a normal progression. Rylan looked up, his expression satisfied. This is excellent. Steady growth. You're definitely moving toward Class B. Thanks, I said. I'll keep at it. He handed the amplifier back. Elena, he paused. Are you happy? With the match, I mean? I studied his face. He looked genuinely curious, but I remembered the hidden note. Do not engage until phase 2. Why do you ask? Rylan shrugged. Just wondering. It's a lot to adjust to. The match, the move, the whole... He gestured vaguely. Everything. I'm managing, I said. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded, smiled, and walked away. I stood there, the amplifier in my hand, and made my second decision of the day. I was going to find out exactly what Rylan and Lily's endgame was, and I was going to beat them to it. That evening, Marcus and I sat in the living room and talked strategy for the first time as partners, not strangers. The amplifier is collecting data, Marcus said, but Rylan's not the only one who can access it. We have the same capabilities. We can monitor his monitoring. You want to hack a system? I want to feed him a narrative that serves us, Marcus corrected. Let him think you're weaker than you are. Let him document suppression he thinks is real. Then, when he files his petition, we present the real data, the data that shows the match is actually accelerating your development. I considered that. You want to set a trap. Exactly. Lily and Rylan want to prove harm. We'll prove the opposite. And when they make their move, we'll be ready. It was good. It was sound. It was manipulative as hell. You're not the cold person everyone thinks you are, I said quietly. Marcus's mouth twitched. I don't care what everyone thinks. I care what you think. That's new, I said. 3 weeks ago, you were avoiding eye contact. 3 weeks ago, I was trying not to scare you away. He leaned forward. I'm not trying that anymore. I trained hard over the next week. Every evening, I took the amplifier into my room. Marcus and I were still sleeping in separate rooms, a mutual decision while we figured out the boundaries of this strange marriage and pushed my psionic energy further. The gold glow got stronger, brighter. By day 4, I could hold a stable golden field the size of a basketball for nearly 2 minutes. By day 6, I'd moved on to focusing it, compressing the energy into a tight sphere that rotated slowly above my palm. I was making progress. Real progress. But I noticed something else too. And my energy was becoming more intense whenever Marcus was nearby. When he was in the apartment, even in another room, my glow was brighter. When he left for the fleet facility, it dimmed. Rylan had been right about the connection. My psionic development was tied to Marcus. But what he'd framed as a weakness, I started to think it might be the opposite. If my energy got stronger when Marcus was near, then maybe the match was multiplying our abilities, not suppressing them. Maybe we were a conduit for each other. A channel. I needed to test the theory. On day 8, I asked Marcus to sit with me during my training session. He looked surprised, but didn't question me. We sat on the floor of the living room, facing each other. I held out my hands, palms up. The golden glow appeared immediately, brighter than I'd ever seen it. Touch my hands, I said. Marcus hesitated. Elena. Just try it. He reached out, slowly, and placed his palms against mine. The moment his skin touched mine, the golden glow exploded. It filled the entire room, pulsing with a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat. I felt a surge of energy that took my breath away. IT was like standing in a storm, every cell in my body vibrating with power. Marcus's eyes widened. I saw the same shock on his face that I was feeling. Then the glow collapsed back into a small, steady sphere above my palms. What the hell was that? I breathed. Marcus was staring at his hands. I felt it. Your energy, it surged through me, like a circuit closing. Azirpi. He looked at me. The match isn't just genetic. It's energetic. We're connected in ways we don't fully understand. That's what the program created. A true pair. My heart was pounding. So when Rylan says my energy is dependent on you, he's right, but it's not a weakness. It's a feature.